Fighters are known for their incredible shape and dominance in the cage, but once the gloves come off for good, some lose control.
John Bones Jones is facing charges for drag racing back in March,
Swapping abs for fast food and training for takeout. From Paddy Pimblett, once the UFC's fun-loving fan favorite, now humorously dubbed the Burger King champ, to Darren Till, once a feared force in the octagon, now almost unrecognizable. These are the fighters who completely lost their athletic physiques after stepping away from the UFC. Paddy Pimblett. Let's start with Paddy Pimblett, one of the UFC's most entertaining personalities, age and at the dinner table. With his messy blonde hair, non-stop pace, and a personality even louder than his pre-fight meal orders, Paddy quickly became a fan favorite. He began his MMA journey at just 15 years old, working his way up through Cage Warriors before signing with the UFC, where he built an impressive streak. Paddy was loud, confident, and always ready to fight, whether it was in the octagon or against a full plate of wings. But what made him truly stand out was his unusual way of managing weight. He treated weight cutting like a seasonal job. One moment, he was a ripped, powerful 155-pound fighter, and the next, he looked like he was training for a heavyweight eating contest at the local pub. His extreme weight changes between fights became a running joke among fans, and Paddy didn't seem to mind. In fact, he leaned into it. "I'll get fat, then I'll lose it again," he often said. And true enough, he always did. Every training camp, Paddy somehow managed to drop all the extra weight and ready to go. But once he stepped away from the UFC, things took a different turn, or maybe stayed the same, except this time, he didn't have to shed the pounds anymore. Without the structure of training camps, his cheat day lifestyle turned into a cheat life. Photos soon appeared online showing Paddy looking, well, more like a champion eater than a professional fighter. Fans were quick to react, joking, "He's fighting for the Burger King championship belt now." Paddy, of course, laughed it off. He started posting his food adventures on social media, proudly showing off his latest feasts, and even tracking how his face puffed up over time. No more brutal weight cuts, no more strict diets, just constant cheat meals, 7 days a week. Some fans still hope to see him make a comeback one day, but realistically, Paddy seems to have traded fighting for feasting, and he's fully embraced it. Maybe he didn't lose his competitive spirit after all. He just found a new opponent, portion control, and by the looks of it, that's one battle he's happily losing. Now, speaking of fighters who've taken a similar, who might be giving Paddy a run for his money. Darren Till. Darren Till's UFC career was a wild ride of thrilling wins and devastating losses. He was a weight wrecking machine, quickly proving he was a serious contender. His knockout victory over Donald "Cowboy" Cerrone made fans believe he was the next big name in the sport. A title shot against Tyron Woodley soon followed, but that's when things started going downhill. Woodley dominated Till, handing him his first professional defeat. From there, things got tough. A mix of injuries, tough matchups, and declining performance led to a 1-5 record. Eventually, Till parted ways with the UFC and shifted his focus to boxing. But the move didn't seem to do his body any favors. The once sculpted welterweight, who looked like he was carved from stone, now appears to be carved from something a lot softer. Recent photos from his training sessions for his upcoming fight with Tommy Fury left fans genuinely confused. Gone was the sharp, muscular build that once made Till such an intimidating figure. Instead, he looked like someone who had spent more time at the pub than the gym. Fans online didn't hold back. Some wondered if Till was truly serious about boxing, while others turned to jokes. One fan wrote that he looked unrecognizable, while another said he seemed to be training for a hot dog eating contest instead of a boxing match. One particularly harsh comment read, "Too much beer, lads," and another simply said, "This ain't gonna be good." When you compare Till to Tommy Fury, the difference is hard to ignore. Fury has stayed in great shape, keeping his TV-ready abs intact. Till, on the other hand, looks like he's taken a few too many cheat days. Because of this, many fans are already doubting Till's chances in the ring, predicting that his fight against Fury could end quickly and painfully. Whether Till can turn things around before stepping into the ring remains to be seen. For now, fans are just hoping he can rediscover the fire that once made him one of the most exciting fighters to watch. Transformation shocked even longtime fans. John Jones. Jon "Bones" Jones is one of the most dominant and controversial fighters in UFC history. Known for his unpredictable fighting style, long reach, and unmatched talent, Jones ruled the light heavyweight division for years. His dominance made many believe he was nearly unbeatable, until reality caught up with him. As time passed, both age and lifestyle started to leave their marks. In his prime, Jones had a lean, athletic build that reflected his incredible skill and strength. But as the years went on, and as his career was interrupted by legal troubles and suspensions, his once flawless physique began to fade. While Jones was still winning fights, his time away from constant training clearly took a toll. Recently, a photo of Jones sparked a wave of reactions online. In it, the heavyweight champion stood in a relaxed pose, still muscular, but noticeably less defined than before. Fans were quick to point it out, saying he no longer looked as sharp or athletic. Even rival fighter Tom Aspinall joined in, calling Jones a bit overweight these days. Aspinall joked that Jones was probably eating Doritos and watching from the couch as he waited for his opponent to lose. The internet piled on with similar jokes, and while some felt bad for Jones, others couldn't help but be curious. What happens when one of the greatest fighters alive takes a long break from training? Sure, Jones isn't the perfectly built athlete he once was, but let's not forget, this is still Jon Jones. When fight night comes, he knows how to perform at the highest level. The question now is whether this heavier version of Jones still has the same explosiveness and stamina that made him legendary. As fans look ahead to 2025, many are wondering, will he return to top form, or will the extra pounds finally catch up to him? Hopefully, he's spending more time in the gym than on the couch, and eating fewer Cheetos before the next big fight. And just like Jones, another once great fighter followed a similar path after leaving the spotlight, Johnny Hendricks, who went from being one of the UFC's most feared competitors to one of its most unrecognizable retirees. Johnny Hendricks. Johnny Hendricks, the fighter who once ruled the UFC with his wild fighting style and unbelievable reach, is back in the spotlight, though not for a comeback fight. This time, people are talking about his appearance. But before we get into that, let's look back at Johnny Hendricks' legendary UFC career. He was the kind of athlete who changed what it meant to dominate in the octagon. At just 23 years old, he became the youngest UFC champion, showing off a mix of power and skill that made him one of the most dangerous fighters of his time. With his unusually long reach, he blended striking and wrestling in a way few could handle, like an artist painting chaos inside the cage. Even though he wasn't the type to show off a bulky, muscular body like most other fighters, Johnny's lean, wiry frame worked perfectly for him. He didn't look as intimidating as some, but once the fight started, that deceptive build became his secret weapon. Then came the point when Johnny stepped away from the UFC, whether to handle legal issues, shift divisions, or deal with personal matters. And that's when things started to change. Once he walked away from the cage, it seemed like his physique decided to do the same. The once dominant fighter, who used to toss opponents around like they were nothing, began to look, let's just say, more laid back. Recent photos online show Johnny Hendricks looking like the guy who brings the chips to a backyard barbecue rather than the fighter who once struck fear in his opponents. Of course, to be fair, life hasn't been easy for him. He's faced family problems, legal challenges, and more than a few controversies. Still, when fans saw his softer look, complete with a rounder midsection, the internet wasted no time making jokes. But Johnny being Johnny, he didn't hide or make excuses. He owned it. As he once said himself, "I love food. I'm not gonna beat around the bush." Whether it's a cheeseburger, pizza, or a cold beer, he enjoys himself when he's not preparing for a fight. And honestly, that makes him easier to relate to. Sure, when it's time to train, he follows strict diet plans like the famous Dolce diet for 8 to 10 weeks. But outside of that, he enjoys life. His body might not look like that of a top-tier fighter anymore, but his career speaks for itself. His legacy inside the octagon will always matter more than abs or biceps. After years of punishing battles, maybe some rest and a few burgers is exactly what he earned. Coming up next, let's talk about Henry Cejudo, who also let himself go but managed to fight his way back to the top. Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo knows what success looks like, from wrestling mats to the UFC cage. He made history at the 2008 Olympics by becoming the youngest American to win a gold medal in freestyle wrestling at just 21 years old. Then he took over the UFC, winning championships in 2 different divisions, flyweight and bantamweight. By the time he retired in 2020, he had become one of the most decorated fighters in the sport. Many thought that was the last we'd see of him, but that assumption couldn't have been more wrong. Fast forward to 2024, and fans aren't just talking about Cejudo's titles anymore, they're talking about his body. Remember when Henry looked like he could lift a car? Those days seem to be behind him, at least for a while. After retirement, Cejudo clearly loosened up his diet and workouts. Like many retired athletes, he went from competition ready to I'll start my diet tomorrow. Social media took notice fast. Fans started teasing him about the extra weight, and Sean O'Malley led the charge. O'Malley even called him fat and joked that Henry was having a midlife crisis. He went further, accusing Cejudo of stumbling around backstage at UFC 276, hinting that Henry might have been enjoying life a bit too much. Was it too many late-night snacks? A little too much comfort food? Only Henry knows. Despite the teasing, Henry wasn't done. He made a comeback to face Aljamain Sterling for the bantamweight title. Though he lost by split decision, it was a close match and showed that his heart for competition never went away. But it was hard not to notice the difference in his conditioning compared to his prime. These days, if Cejudo went 5 rounds, it might take him 2 rounds just to catch his breath. Still, retirement can be tricky. It's easy to enjoy life when you've already achieved everything. And while Cejudo's dad bod might not be UFC material, it definitely became one of the most talked about transformations of the year. Who knows? Maybe his next comeback will be for most improved dad bod. Now, let's move on to another fighter who's been through the same thing, Mark Munoz, who also struggled with weight but found his strength again in the end. Mark Munoz built a solid reputation in the UFC as a dangerous middleweight fighter, known for his wrestling and power. Born in Japan to Filipino parents, he started as a champion wrestler, even winning the NCAA National Championship in 2001. When he entered the UFC, his aggressive ground-and-pound style and never-give-up attitude earned him victories over tough opponents like Chris Lieben and Kendall Grove. But after his final fight in 2015, things changed. His career ended, and his life took a different path, one that didn't include intense training camps or strict diets. Over time, Mark's transformation became one of the most surprising post-retirement stories in MMA. The man who once looked like a human tank started to gain a lot of weight. By his own admission, he went up to 261 pounds. Mark didn't hide what happened. He spoke openly about falling into emotional eating and depression after a string of injuries and a painful loss to Chris Weidman. The once strong fighter now felt like a shadow of himself, both physically and mentally. Joking about it himself, Munoz said he looked like a character straight out of Austin Powers, even comparing himself to Fat Bastard. He admitted that he ate because he was sad, and felt sad because he ate. That honesty connected with many people who've gone through similar struggles. But Mark wasn't one to give up. After realizing how far he had fallen, he decided to turn things around. Through hard work and dedication, he lost 62 pounds and started getting back into shape. Even though he didn't fully return to his prime fighting condition, what mattered was that he regained control over his life. Munoz showed that a fighter's spirit isn't defined by what happens inside the cage, but how they respond when life knocks them down. His comeback story became a symbol of resilience and determination. So, while he may not look like the ripped warrior he once was, his discipline and heart are still the same. Mark Munoz proved that even when you lose the body, the fighter within never truly disappears. Up next is Georges St-Pierre, another UFC legend whose post-retirement transformation left fans completely surprised. Georges St-Pierre. Georges St-Pierre stands as one of the greatest figures in UFC history. The Canadian mixed martial artist, born in 1981, ruled the welterweight and middleweight divisions, winning multiple titles and earning global respect. His UFC run was stacked with achievements, including defending the welterweight belt 9 times in a row, a record that cemented him as the GOAT to many fans. With unmatched endurance, accurate striking, and top-level athletic ability, Georges was nearly unbeatable inside the octagon. But what happens when one of the sport's most physically gifted fighters steps away for good? Well, the picture changes quite a bit. Fast forward to Georges' post-UFC life, and it's safe to say he's no longer maintaining that shredded, six-pack physique that once made fans admire him. After retiring for the second time in 2019, Georges started looking noticeably more relaxed. One big sign of this came when a behind-the-scenes photo shoot popped up in 2023, showing him throwing punches and kicks. Fans expected to see the same lean, battle-ready athlete. Instead, Georges looked more like someone who'd been spending time at a gym that offered too many pastries. A small belly was definitely visible, a pot belly, as people called it. Naturally, Michael Bisping, who faced Georges and lost to him in 2017, didn't miss the chance to poke fun. On his podcast, he joked that Georges looked like he had been impregnated by an alien. Harsh? Maybe. Accurate? Also maybe. With his belly slightly sticking out, Georges looked less like a man gearing up for a title defense and more like someone recovering from a big family dinner. Still, that's what happens when you stop training at a superhuman level. Your body starts showing it. Now, moving on, we've got Quinton Jackson, another fan favorite. But unlike Georges, he didn't just ease off the training. He went through a much heavier transformation, quite literally. Quinton Jackson. Quinton Jackson was one of the most exciting and explosive fighters in UFC history. Known for his violent slams and aggressive style, he became a UFC light heavyweight champion and one of MMA's most recognized personalities. He had the total package: power, charm, and a strong athletic body. But once his UFC career was behind him, things took a big turn. And by big, we mean his abs disappeared and were replaced by something more like the spare tires on a van. Back in the day, Rampage was famous for his incredible athleticism and his legendary Rampage Slam. After leaving the UFC, though, he looked less like the hunter and more like the hunted. By snacks. He was visibly heavier, and fans couldn't help but notice the dramatic change. Even he admitted that food had become his biggest opponent. When Jackson stepped into the ring against Fedor Emelianenko in 2019 for his heavyweight debut, he was nowhere near the same fighter. The last emperor knocked him out quickly, and fans noticed that Quinton looked more like a heavyweight in the couch potato division. After the loss, Quinton openly admitted that he had been carrying too much extra weight. Embarrassed, but motivated, he decided to turn things around. He dropped an impressive 35 pounds. Yes, 35 pounds, the size of a small child. Quinton even said that the public criticism helped him stay focused. Instead of feeling bad, he used it as motivation to get back in shape. "I was getting tired of being fat," he said in one post, laughing at himself. Even so, the transformation was hard to ignore. The once sculpted fighter who was known for his muscular build had clearly gone through some ups and downs. Still, he's not done yet. Jackson is now working toward returning to the ring with a healthier weight, planning a possible comeback fight with the UFL, and maybe even a boxing match before retirement truly sticks. Let's just hope his stamina returns too, so he won't need a break after throwing the first punch. Up next is a fighter whose transformation might be even more surprising: Khalil Rountree, whose body and career went through extreme highs and lows. Khalil Rountree. Khalil Rountree's story sounds like something straight out of a movie, but instead of winning an Oscar, he won fights by knocking people unconscious. Competing in the UFC's light heavyweight division, Rountree built a reputation for his destructive kicks and knockout power. But before he was feared in the cage, he lived a completely different kind of life. He wasn't a fighter back then. He was a 300-pound young man, addicted to junk food and cigarettes. He spent most of his days smoking and drinking soda, with zero concern for fitness. His eating habits could make any nutritionist lose hope. At that time, Khalil was the farthest thing from an athlete. He was the guy who would get out of breath just tying his shoes. Then came a life-changing moment. One day, Khalil watched The Ultimate Fighter, and something inside him shifted. The show inspired him to change everything. He quit smoking, ditched the junk food, and walked into a gym determined to start fresh, even though it was brutally hard in the beginning. Through sheer determination and countless hours of sweat, Khalil managed to lose 100 pounds in less than a year. That dedication eventually led him to the UFC, where he made a name for himself with his explosive Muay Thai-style finishes and aggressive striking. But, like many athletes, the discipline didn't last forever. After stepping away from the spotlight, Khalil's focus in the gym started to fade, and so did his lean build. Slowly, the pounds returned. The once ripped knockout artist began looking more like the version of himself from before his transformation. Fans barely recognized him as the same man who once dominated inside the octagon. Unfortunately, this isn't unusual. Many retired fighters lose that strict structure once their careers slow down. The daily grind of training turns into comfort eating and rest days that stretch into weeks. Soon, Khalil was back to looking like the 300-pound version of his past self. It's a sad but real pattern for a lot of ex-UFC athletes, going from flexing on weigh-in day to flexing their ability to finish a whole pizza alone. One day, they're breaking records in the cage. The next, they're breaking diet plans at the dinner table. So, which of these transformations shocked you the most? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. And before you leave, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to MMA Rivals so you don't miss the next ones.